was your journey so far in the Daimler DICV?
How was my journey? I'm now since 10 years and 3 months in India. So it was a very, very exciting time, yeah, with a lot of challenges. It was never ever boring to be in India. So every year there were new challenges, means new regulations from the government, a lot of environment issues like storms or things like this, which we had here. But it was a very, very fruitful time for me and my family to being in India, because setting up a complete plant here in India, setting up a complete supply chain, and also taking care in the end also of the dealers. This is something which is unique. We started more or less like a startup company 10 years ago with only a few guys. And in the meanwhile, we have 4,000 employees. We export to 40 different countries, our trucks from India. We have a good market position in India, especially in heavy duty. And we are growing fast and rapidly.
Okay. So you talked about developing a vendors and dealer network. So for Daimler, it was something great that you achieved 70 to 80% in the beginning of localization. How do you manage to do that?
How do we manage to do this? So originally we planned between 70 and 80% of localizations. Meanwhile, we have 92% localization on all product lines. So it's a great achievement in this regards, and it makes us totally independent of any kind of exchange rate. Having said this, how did we really make it? It sounds not that difficult as it is. So we had, for each and every supplier, we had a plan. So we really assessed the suppliers, what do they need, what kind of equipments, machines, tools, jigs would be required, and we gave the suppliers clear recommendation how to do this. We trained not only the engineers from the suppliers, but also the blue collars. We took them to Germany, to the United States, to Japan, in order to show them how a certain product gets produced. And as you know, we have a very, very low vertical range of integration in our plant in Oregon. So we don't do any kind of machining. We have only assembly lines there. All kind of technologies which we normally do in our plants in Germany have been offloaded to the suppliers, and this means we had to train them.
But for the first time, Daimler had localized 5Cs like cylinder head, cylinder blocks, etc. Haven't they done it before?
We have done it partially. Somewhere else also in the world where we sometimes we need a cylinder head because our own plants would be full. But complete offloading all parts, that we have a plant and we produce in a country and we have offloaded all kind of machining, we have never done.
Was that, can you compare and contrast vendors in other places to those in India?
Vendors in other places, I would say, would not be so much different than the vendors in India, because we have had a very tedious selection process. So we have at the moment 370 suppliers in India, but when we started to scale for every commodity, we had 3 to 5 suppliers, the short list, and then we looked at this and we selected the best one. And in the end, we wanted to export high precision parts from India to Europe, to Japan, to the United States. This means we really had to assess what is the delta from where the supplier stands today and what kind of additional technology would they require. And this is where we then also started with the training. But what was quite exciting was the willingness of the suppliers to follow us. Working with Daimler was for them also one in a lifetime experience, getting all this technology more or less for free. Yeah? More or less because they had really to accept it, they really had to learn, they had to also have dedicated staff. But in the end, this worked for the suppliers very well, because a lot of suppliers also set up now plants overseas, support our network, support also other OEMs with their parts.
Okay, so how many your suppliers set up a plant in overseas, and which about?
I've never counted this. I can only tell you we between 15 and 20% of our suppliers, depending on the technology, are exporting already the parts to the Daimler network globally. So and a lot of the suppliers, as I said, have already set up also some branches somewhere else in the world.
Okay. Is it on any critical components, or it's something on the components that is going to give value additions?
So we do this with all kind of complex parts. So for example, complete transmission parts gets produced in India and shipped out. So we, for example, we have established here a medium-duty platform for transmissions in India, and we ship out the entire transmission to Germany and to some other destinations. Okay. And on top of this, we export 50 million parts, most likely high-value parts, not cheap parts, not bulky parts, high-value parts.
So going forward, where do you see the Indian operations sticking?
Where do I see the Indian operations taking? I would say we have a good chance in 3 years to double the volume again. So because we have laid a really good foundation here, so rock solid plan. So all cornerstones are also laid, so we know which kind of products we want to produce. We are ready for BS6 already, so we test our products. New regulations like new X loads offers us additional opportunities. Having said this, I would say there is a good opportunity to grow. Export also, I see a lot of potential to grow in the near future. Clear say a lot of things will depend on exchange rates in the future, but we have now so many locations for the different countries where we can export our parts, trucks to. I would say the sky might not be the limit, as we say always, so we have a good future.
Okay, great. It is also understood that you have chosen your vendors who did not have tie-ups with foreign companies. Unlike other MNCs operating out of India, why is it so?
Why is it so big? Relatively simple. If I would have selected the vendors which we have in Germany, they would also come then with their organization to India to setting up a new shop and plant and things like this. So this would have taken much more time. In order to convince them to start a production here, they would also have to go through all these processes with the authorities to finding some land and all this. So for us it made more sense to use Indian vendors and to bring them up to a global level. I think this was a smarter approach from our side, and also it gives you a totally different basis. So it's a full second set of suppliers which we didn't have before, and this is a unique position.
Correct. So when you enter the Indian market, you have been the Vice President of Supply Chain. So what are the learnings from the vendor development process which Daimler think is very important?
Daimler think is very important. I hope everybody is convinced that it's the right thing to do, is to invest in suppliers. Really to train the suppliers to an utmost as we did, because if you want to have additional potential, we have to provide support. Just sending somebody a drawing will not be good enough. We really have to work and interact with the suppliers in a way which we have not done before and which is also not usual in this industry. So the kind of support which we gave is really selecting equipment, showing every kind of step of the production process, selecting the material and really showing everything. I think kind of open book mentality which we have had here, this is what made the difference.
Okay. What do you like to say about your suppliers and what you want to comment about them, and going forward, what is your say to them to go further?
To my suppliers, I think most of the suppliers are already at a global standard. And this is something which would nobody have believed 10 years ago, so that's possible. And since they are at global standard, you see already in one thing, we export our products from India to the world, 15 million parts, trucks to 40 destinations. It's only possible if everybody fulfills the global standards, and we do not have any different standards for products in India than we have anywhere else in the world. So it means these suppliers have been trained to follow global standards.
Okay.
And I think this is an upgradation which is beneficial for them.
Okay. What are the significant learnings from the Indian operation for Daimler headquarters?
Significant learnings from Daimler, I think more or less that every challenge can be overcome. So sometimes it takes a little bit more time to overcome those challenges, and setting up a plant in a new country is maybe not that difficult, but setting up a complete business unit is really a tremendous task, because you have to set up a complete supply chain, you have to set up a plant, you have to train your own workers, you have to train later on the dealers, you have to understand the market. Just setting up a plant somewhere else in the world is relatively simple. So you set up a plant, you produce something, and then you set it to existing networks. That's not that difficult in comparison. But setting up a complete business unit, this is really a startup company which really now belongs to Daimler and is fully integrated. And I would say we are at eye level with all other business units.
Okay. What according to you is the biggest achievement at DICV?
Biggest achievements that we are accepted in the Indian market is the biggest achievements that we export under 4 different brands, products, Bhargav, Mercedes-Benz, Fuso and Freightliner, something nobody would have believed this is possible, that our products are accepted in 40 different countries, and in India really the feedback which we get from the customers. This is extremely exciting. Customers and dealers and suppliers, they love us, they really support us, and I think that's the biggest achievement after 10 years in the market, that everybody says, wow, what you did here is great, and they love the company and they will support the company also in the future.
Okay. So what do you like to comment about the Indian commercial industry?
Very challenging, yeah, because let's say we have a lot of regulations which change frequently, so it's not really predictable. So nobody knows what kind of new regulations the government might come up next year. So we have a big challenge, BS6 in 2020. For us, not really a big challenge because we know the BS6 technology, so this is relatively sure for us to do this. But it's not walking in the park to setting up businesses here, because infrastructure needs to be provided, that you have the entire ecosystem which supports those kinds of truck. So we start already to train our dealers and technicians in order to do so. So it's challenging in this regard that you do not have all people ready-made available who knows this technology, but all these things can be achieved. And I would say this is a great future.
Great. Thanks for your time and all the very best for your...
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Nice meeting you.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.